I'm Josh Light with PoliticIt.com here in Mississippi with Ron Williams, who's running for Congress. How you doing today, Ron?
Good, Josh. Thank you.
Good. So, Ron, tell us the difference between you and your competitors in this race.
Well, I'm not a political party specialist. I'm just a working guy. My wife and I owned a business for 21 years. We know what the issues are that are hindering businesses in our state and in our country. I'm not about political favoritism. I'm not a political party-connected individual. I'm just a working guy who's very worried about the country that we're going to leave our children and our grandchildren. And I think it's time that we take our country, and in particular the 4th Mississippi Congressional District. I want to be a part of taking this country back into the control of working men and women who are not necessarily politically connected. They get up every day, they have faith, they go to work, we trust our politicians, and we've trusted our politicians to the point now that we're $16 trillion in debt. We're at each other's throat, both on economic and racial issues in this country. This country's being torn apart by our current political system and our current political officials. It's time we do something different. It's time that we look out for America as Americans, and that's what I want to be a part of.
Tell us about your past experience, how it's prepared you for Congress.
Well, I was a ship captain after leaving college, and it gave me an opportunity to kind of see how America is viewed on the international world. I was able to go into different ports and I did some time at different locations. I actually did some time at the Diego Garcia Air Force Base down there in the Indian Ocean. Spent some time there in support of our troops and military sea lift. But going to these different places, I understood why, or I saw how people looked at Americans. And I got to wondering, why do these people have some of these opinions about America that they have? And then as you dig into our international relationships, we've done some things that you have to wonder about with regards to how we treat some of our international neighbors. So I have some experience there as how we looked at on an international world. But then on a local level, of course, obviously I've been a business owner. I'm a parent. My wife and I have 4 children, a couple of grandkids. So just the day-to-day operations of being in business and being part of our economic system, I understand the pitfalls, I understand the hindrances, I understand the burden that government has begun to place on our businesses and our economy that are hindering our growth. Government, a lot of politicians talk about, we're going to create jobs, we're going to do this, that's not what politicians do. The purpose of our government is to manage the people's business, the common business of the people. They need to get out of the way of business. I know from experience that government hinders business. We need to get government out of the way of business. And I have experience in dealing with that on a personal level to tell you that until we do that, we're not attractive for folks to start businesses, for folks to bring businesses in. Have you ever noticed that normally when we bring a new business into our economy, they're given sort of waivers and exceptions from whatever current regulations everybody else has to deal with? Now, if we have to give waivers and exceptions from these regulations to get businesses to be here, that should tell you these regulations need to go. So that's my thoughts on it, my background on that.
Now, when you're out talking to Mississippians, what kind of fiscal issues are they concerned about? Social issues?
Several things. Mississippians are concerned about our debt, okay? And we'll talk about that a little bit later. Mississippians are concerned about Medicare, Medicaid. They're worried about elderly, are worried about Social Security, okay? And these are good things to be concerned about. Mississippians are worried about jobs, But here's the thing. Talking about jobs, Mississippians aren't looking to government to create the jobs. Mississippians are looking for government to get out of the way so that we can use our own economic design, our own economic energy to create jobs. Now, on Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, welfare, these programs, Mississippians are concerned about the waste and the fraud. And I firmly believe that if we will take a magnifying glass to these programs, weed out and prosecute the waste and the fraud, and it's very important that we prosecute the fraud, we can eliminate these overburdensome costs that are making these programs inefficient and ineffective. Now, once we've determined what our true cost is without the waste and the fraud, then we can determine how to make these programs even more effective and more efficient. These are good programs. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, even our welfare programs. These things were put in place because we are a nation that cares about one another, okay? They have become just run amok, for lack of a better term, with fraud and waste and abuse. We've got to remove these things from these programs and put these programs back to where they were supposed to be as a safety net for those in our society who fall on hard times.
And the deficit, what do we do about it?
We've got to reduce spending. Simple as that. If you look at a graph of our national debt since 1977 to today, it has gone virtually straight up. It has never reduced. Now, when I say that, From 1977 until today, we've had periods where the Republicans were in complete control. We've had periods where the Democrats were in complete control. We've had various combinations of the two. The debt has never gone down. We've raised taxes, the debt hasn't gone down. We've lowered taxes, the debt hasn't gone down. The problem is this, regardless of what the two major parties say, okay, they have never reduced the national debt, period. They cannot tell their special interest campaign contributors no more. They just don't have the willpower to push these folks back from the pork party, the pork trough. Okay, that's what we have to do. We have to be willing to look at these special interests who've been riding the gravy train for a long time and say no more. You know, nothing personal. We love every one of you, but our country can no longer afford this pork fest. And that's what it's going to take. It's going to take some strong willpower, some dedication. It's going to take dedication to America first, party second.
You're running as a libertarian, but from what we understand, you don't have all the same libertarian views that most of the libertarians do. Can you talk about what makes you different than a traditional libertarian?
I do have a lot of the same views with regards to smaller government, less government, more individual liberty, and more individual freedoms. But I'm a much more conservative individual than what your standard libertarian may be. But I tell you, one of the reasons that I accepted the invitation and decided to go as a libertarian was they pointed out that what was important to them was that as long as that I was honest, what I stood for during the campaign is the same thing that I stand for after the election. And I like a party that sets the ground rules of honesty and commitment like that. So I'm pleased to be a part of the Libertarian Party. But I am a much more conservative individual than your average libertarian.
And how are you using Facebook? Are you using Facebook and social media in this campaign?
As to the extent that my 54-year-old mind can do that, jokingly, I do use Facebook. We do some Twitter. Some of the young people involved in the campaign help us out with that. You know, yes, but we do, complete with typos. You know, I'm a horrible typist. I'm hunt and peck typing services here, and so you can tell when I've put something on personally because it's full of typos. But yes, we're using it.
Do you find your constituents communicate with you through the internet and social media?
Dude, we get a lot of response to on the Facebook page. You know, of course, we get a lot of emails. You know, we get a lot of comments on the web page www.ronwilliamsuscongress.com. We get a lot of response there. You know, I think that that's what has helped us to have a successful campaign so far, is because there's so many outlets and there's so many avenues to contact and talk to people without just the same, you know, the old-fashioned, you know, TV, radio, that's it. Now you can find folks everywhere, and they can find you. And I think that's a very key part. That's going to be a critical part to turning this country around, because people actually can have access to information that will drive them to get involved. And that's what it's going to take to save this country. It's going to take folks getting involved.
And in the presidential race, have you endorsed a nominee? There's a candidate that you're endorsing?
I have not endorsed a candidate yet. Gary Johnson, the Libertarian candidate, or Mitt Romney, the apparent Republican nominee, is the direction that I'm leaning in. You know, look, here's the thing. What concerns me, though, for years, both parties have said one thing and done another thing, and we've been victimized by their mistruths and their unwillingness to stay committed to things that they campaign on. It's almost like you can't listen to what they're saying because of what they're doing. So as I look at the Republican Party, and I look at the Democratic Party, and I look at Gary and the Libertarian Party, you know, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for someone who's consistent in what they believe in. You know, don't tell me that you were the author of this program and now you're against that program, but you were the author of it. We have a lot of things that we need to reconcile in this election before we can come to a decision as who's going to be our leader into the next 4 years.
Where can voters go to learn more about you, Ron?
That site is www.ronwilliamsuscongress.com.
All right. Well, thanks for meeting with us today, Ron.
Hey, my pleasure.